Rick, you want to go ahead and make sure we are streaming and recording?
Yes, we are recording.
Okay, and we'll turn it over to you, Madam Chair.
Great, thank you. Good evening and welcome to the March 3rd, 2022 meeting of the Athens-Clarke County Planning Commission. In response to the coronavirus epidemic, this meeting is being held via WebEx online meeting platform, which is being broadcast on YouTube. Members of the public were provided the opportunity to email comments to the Planning Department prior to 12 noon yesterday. Members of the public may also address the Planning Commission in real time via electronic communication provided in the auditorium at 120 West Doherty Street, subject to safe distancing measures. For those of you viewing the meeting remotely, you will find the meeting agenda with the YouTube meeting address on the Planning Department website at accgov.com/planning. For those of you viewing the meeting from the auditorium, on the table by the auditorium door, you will find sign-in sheet and copies of tonight's agenda. After a staff presentation of an agenda item, we will receive public comment, first from the applicant, then from those in the auditorium. 10 minutes are allowed to address the commission for the applicant or their representative. 3 minutes are allowed for anyone else who wishes to address the commission. After public comment, the applicant or their representative may request a 2-minute response. Once the public hearing is closed, the Planning Commission will proceed to discuss the item. We will receive no additional public comments unless requested by the commission. When addressing the commission from the auditorium, please speak from the designated place as directed by staff. For all speakers, please provide your name, address, and nature of your interest in the project. For those in the auditorium, a timer device will display an amber light 30 seconds before the expiration of the allotted time and a red light upon expiration of the allotted time. So please pay attention to the light so we won't have to interrupt you. For those addressing the commission remotely, you will also be expected to adhere to the specified time limits. Exhibits may be displayed by the applicants remotely or in the auditorium. Written correspondence received by noon yesterday has been forwarded to the commission and is part of the public record. Any additional written materials to be placed into the record must be read during public comment within the time limits previously stated. Please direct your comments to the Planning Commission and not to the applicants. And for those of you in the auditorium, please refrain from applauding or jeering any of the speakers. For everyone participating in this evening's meeting, please turn off or silence your cell phones. For commission members, please mute your microphone if you're not speaking. Use the chat box if you have any technical issues. Raise your hand to the camera if you'd like to speak, and please wait to be recognized. And remember that the meeting is being recorded. And for those of you who are in the auditorium, I just want to point out that of our 4 agenda items that were originally on our agenda, 2 of them are no longer on the agenda. So if you're here for the Whole Road or Commerce Road items, we won't be discussing those tonight, and they may appear on future agendas. Okay, so we'll start with our regular items of business, introduction of staff reports and other documents submitted to the Planning Commission. Lucy?
Yes, I would like to move approval of that item.
Great. And Alice, second? All in favor, please raise your hand and say aye. I guess just raise your hand. And all opposed? Okay, great. And approval of the February 3rd, 2022 Planning Commission meeting minutes. Lucy?
I would like to move approval, and I would like to thank the Planning Department for including the information about the books that I suggested in our discussion on the first item. However, I would also like to make it's a minor thing. We have for and against and then rebuttal, and it's really not a rebuttal. It's just basically a response. So I'd like for the planning staff to make sure that that's not, I mean, rebuttal strikes me as being kind of adversive, and we aren't really looking at that. So I would just like that to be kind of, let's do that right by the minutes. But anyway, other than that, I approve. Move to approve.
And Jim, did I see you raise your hand for a second? Great. All in favor, please raise your hand. And all opposed? Okay, and the minutes have been approved. Okay, at this time, our first item of business is 1010 Oglethorpe Avenue. As chair, I do need to recuse myself from the discussion of this agenda item due to the nature of my employment with the Athens Land Trust. So, so I guess 2 things. I need to I would like to entertain a motion for somebody to take the place of me during that agenda item. And this might be, oh, okay, go ahead, Lucy.
Okay, it's probably just easier to go ahead and make the motion now. And that is for immediate past president or past chair, Alice Kinman, be appointed the chair of this item on new business.
Thank you. And do we have a second? Joey. Great. And I should also allow Matt Hall to explain as vice chair why he isn't stepping in. Go ahead, Matt.
Thank you. Yes, I also will be recusing myself from discussion and consideration of this agenda item because I am part of the development team working on this item.
Great. So all in favor of Alice Kinman taking over for this agenda item, please raise your hand. Okay, and all opposed? Okay.
Sarah,
Yes?
before you leave, did you want to do the May Courts item?
Oh, thank you. Do we have anything from May Courts, Brad?
Just a really quick bit of information. We are currently in public information process and public input for replacement of the State Route 10 loop bridges. These are the two bridges that cross the river in the general proximity of Ben Burton Park, where it's paralleling Mitchell Bridge Road. It is currently in our long-range plan for replacement of those two bridges to be in FY25. The state has asked that that construction period be moved forward to the current fiscal year. So we are in public input. It will go to the MPO committee, and upon receipt and approval by the policy committee of the MPO, you should expect to see some activity out along those bridges soon. Very similar to what you're seeing now if you are up in the northeast corner of the bypass where you kind of have to get off to stay on right there at where it turns into 29 and there's work there. Those two bridges are currently being replaced as well. But that concludes my report.
Great, thank you. Okay, at this time, Matt Hall and I will move ourselves from the meeting, and we'll see you at the next agenda item. Thanks.
As our team exits, I feel like the person that's left in the bunker, you know. Yeah, I think everyone understands, and I'm happy.
Uh-oh.
Under PD 2022-01248. It is 1010 Oglethorpe Avenue, and we will begin with the staff report.
Okay, tonight I'm trying to use one screen, hopefully. So this is 1010 Oglethorpe Avenue, PD 2022-01248. And this is a preliminary review. You had a concept review earlier, and now it's formally in as a plan development. And this is the first of two meetings. Though it should actually just say preliminary review, but they'll could be back for a master review. It could be as soon as May, before going on to the mayor and commission if they go through smoothly. And so the request is from RS8, single family residential, to RS5, single family residential plan development. And the location map here is the corner of Oglethorpe and Nottingham Drive. And you can see there's one house structure on the property. The property is about 1.85 acres. It does sit at the entrance to the neighborhood, the single family residential neighborhood. Future land use is traditional neighborhood. That would remain with the current zoning request. And the zoning request is to another single family zone of RS5 with the plan development. So we are rezoning from to higher density single family zoning is the request. 24 total dwelling units. There's a cottage courtyard design, and with that is a clustering of homes with open spaces. And we also have multifamily dwellings as well. A couple of entrances or driveways. One's a two-way drive, exit and entrance onto Oglethorpe, and then we have a one-way exit drive to Nottingham Drive. And so the courtyard request would help reduce development costs. And hopefully that can be passed on, to the home buyer. So the intent is to market these homes for incomes between 80% and 150% of AMI. They are thinking about a potential owner occupancy requirement, and also potential for restricting some units with the help of some outside agencies, negotiating with them, such as Habitat and Land Trust, to restrict some units to an 80% AMI household. The site plan, you can see in the two drives here. The old house, the existing house would be turned into a duplex and a clubhouse area. We have a couple of quadplexes, a bungalow, a couple of carriage houses. This is single family attached as like a duplex type structure, and then you have 9 cottages. There is about 28 parking spaces along the eastern side. Proposed architecture, the cottages, and there's others of the carriage houses and the bungalow, as well as the quad. This is an elevation of the quadplexes. There are a number of waivers. I won't go through all these. These are spelled out in the staff report. So plan development does allow flexibility. There are obviously a number of waivers for such a unique design. But basically, I think the staff report said, I think we're left with just a couple of standards that aren't being requested for waiver. So generally, there's a concern with the number of waivers, but we are in general support of the single family concept. It's the single families makes sense in a single family area, whether you cluster the homes and to make that more affordable with open space. Our ordinance actually, in a lot of areas, especially above 2 acres, doesn't have a lot size. It actually allows for clustering, easier clustering with larger subdivisions and open space. So the main concerns that we have are with the density in the multifamily use, because the future land use calls for a medium density, where this is getting into an RM2 type bedroom count, which is considered a high density. And also the multifamily use is not mentioned in the future land use of traditional neighborhood. So also the multifamily use is, again, it's not compatible with the proposed single family zone. We do have a RM zone, which is set up for just this reason, to allow mixed density of single family and multifamily. RM has densities for both of those, whereas a single family, we do not have a multifamily density standard. So also, whereas we have single family throughout the area, we have only, this would be the only property to be able to build high density multifamily. And so we may be avoiding a spot zoning if we stay with a single family zone. There may be some confusion about allowing one developer the right to build something that no one else in the area can do. So compatibility with adjoining single family neighborhood also is important. The views from the neighbors nearby and from the street are going to be the sides and rears of the proposed structures. There's no houses addressing the neighborhood street. And then we also have houses, 2-story houses 6 feet from the backyards of homes that have been there for decades, as well as a 28-space parking lot, so a commercial-sized parking lot also behind these single-family houses. There's some concern about the parking, and I know we've talked about minimizing parking before. And the main thing for an area like this is, if we're talking about ownership, is if people will be interested in having one space for their home, and if all the spaces are taken, because we are reducing parking by 10 spaces, then will there be parking for any guest at all, any kind of service vehicles? Are they going to be parking on the street? Now, the off-street space, the on-street spaces are public; they're not reservable. So if some of the neighbors end up using some of those spaces, again, that's which they can do. You can't reserve them, so there could be some disagreements over those remaining spaces. So the main thing about just 2 spaces per home is to make sure that, as elsewhere, people don't go parking into the neighborhood areas if they can stay in their own, near their own house. So, but aspects of the development that would ensure affordability, they mentioned HOA covenants, potential affordability agreements with private partners. That's certainly laudable, but again, it's beyond the scope of what we can enforce by ACC. We may be a few months from a inclusionary zoning ordinance, but right now at this time we have no voluntary or regulatory mechanism to ensure this affordability. And so that concludes the staff reports.
So we will move on to public comment, and we'll begin with the applicant. Who's here to speak in favor of, oh, there you are, Bob Smith.
One of the applicants. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, Joe, great.
Joe
So,
Palomensky, thank you. Bob Smith's going to speak on our behalf, but I just wanted to do a quick introduction and thank you for having us back. In the interest of time, like last time, I'm just going to read something because I'll just start rambling otherwise. Our group is excited to go over your suggestions, and the result of this regrouping led to enhancements that we believe make this community even tighter. So much so, I think Dan Paralek at Opticos would be proud of what we've accomplished. We know Dan, and we hired him and his team to consult with us from the day we acquired 1010, and we hope to give him some great news this time next month. We designed 1010 to be the best missing middle project we could do using nationally recognized best practices, from offering Athens a community of mandatory owner-occupied living spaces that are now 100% affordable to community members earning between 70 and 150% of area median income, and some even more affordable than that, to gathering spaces to be envious of, truly. We now have a true indoor community center in the main building with a kitchen, large living spaces, and an amazing screen patio. Great place for coffee with the neighbors. We have multiple outdoor gathering spaces, community veggie gardens, additional storage for bikes and other seasonally used items and hobby items. We have EV charging stations and more, all seamlessly integrated at this point. When we look at what we've created now and what's been enhanced after our initial meeting with you in comparison to what an as-of-right build-out would look like, there really is no comparison with regard to opportunity for more than just one demographic who can already afford to buy inside the loop at any cost. As I said, we did hire Opticos to guide us from the very start because we believe in resurrecting missing middle housing with its spine of affordability that keeps missing middle as a concept standing tall. That the county is clearly on the same page with this is really quite awesome to us, historically speaking, when you think about it. We are on the same page right now as Athens civic and business leaders, and this is really something to celebrate. Resurrecting a long dormant, equitable approach to housing is just the right thing to do. We believe we're on the forefront of that in Athens. Your seal of approval will result in offering housing opportunities to those who have been long kept from real estate ownership. And that's something that we all have in the United States as a mean to building personal wealth. One final point before I turn it over to Bob. We were talking about this recently, and we found it very interesting. When we totaled up the amount of total square footage we're requesting to build, along with the amount of paving, et cetera, if you will, it's all basically the same numbers as we would be able to build as of right if we were to just go ahead and build somewhere between 7 and 9 enormous homes with enormous price tags, something that all of us in our partnership are opposed to. We really want to do the right thing. We believe this is the right thing. This was real food for thought for us, and I think it shows how a creative use of rapidly dwindling in-town space can be used to benefit more rather than fewer people. We truly look forward to hearing your comments tonight, and I'll turn it over to Bob. If there's anything I can chime in on after that, I will. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Palomensky.
Okay, thank you. Trust you can hear me. All right, I'm Bob Smith with Smith Planning Group, and it's my pleasure to present this second installment of the plan and the design progression of 1010 Oglethorpe Avenue. And Rick, could you pull up the slide deck, please, and go to the second slide? You'll remember this slide from our original presentation. The site is located within a 5-minute walk to an elementary school and church, and within a 10-minute walk to other civic and social uses, including access to daily needs. This, in association with the transit stop across Oglethorpe Avenue from the site, gives the residents of this development the opportunity to truly be less automobile dependent. Given the site's location, we think it's a great opportunity to meet some community goals and address some broader housing issues by providing various housing types most of us now refer to as the missing middle. The site design retains the existing 4-square house and lends itself well to the creation of a cottage court and the opportunity to provide 2 quadruplexes, both of an architectural style which will complement the architecture of the existing house. Next slide. The site was designed based upon blending the principles found in Ross Chapin's Pocket Neighborhood book and, next slide please, Dan Perelet's book, Missing Middle Housing. And as Joe said, Dan Perelet and his firm Opticos have been involved since the beginning. They provided the first concept of the site, and Smith's planning group role is to refine the design and provide local representation due to our familiarity with the Athens-Clarke County zoning ordinance and development standards. Next slide. The 3 concepts that you saw in January were all very similar, but each contained a different blending of housing opportunities. We explored the option of converting the existing house into a restaurant and providing small retail or office opportunities by incorporating some live-work units. Next slide. Based upon your input and guidance during the concept review in January, the plan that is before you tonight contains no commercial uses. The existing house is converted into a duplex with a commons room for use by all the residents. Every dwelling located on individual lots are located on individual lots except for the units within the existing house. Parking is located on one side of the development, and we've incorporated a community garden and a small play space for children. Next slide. So this is the site plan that is before you. This is a more illustrative version. In the center of the site, you can see the existing 4-square house that's designated by the letter A. The commons room is on the right side with the patio, and you'll see the community garden designated by the letter D. In front, or planned south of the existing house, are the 2 quadruplex units. And the space created between these 3 structures, creates a really nice quad as a welcome from Oglethorpe Avenue. Of course, on the right-hand side, you see the parking facility with 2 carriage houses designated by the letter F. These carriage houses will have garages, and of course, the living unit is above. The cottage court is planned north with 9 single-family detached cottages and an attached cottage on the eastern side. The structure on the northern boundary is bicycle storage, and of course we have some EU charging stations and covered parking areas there. The last remaining item is the structure designated by the letter B. That's a small bungalow. This would, even though it is kind of acts as an ADU, it would be on its own lot, so it could be sold as fee simple. Next slide. This is the detailed version of the plan that was included in your packet, and Rick had this in his presentation as well. And the reason I included it here is you can actually see the property lines for each lot, because this is a fee simple development, not any sort of a large condominium or multifamily type development. We think that's very important. Next slide. You've seen this before. This is the architecture or illustrating the architecture. The proposed structures are highly detailed, yet appropriate to the style, with the attention given to appropriate massing and fenestration of the windows and openings. The 2 quadruplexes will be designed to complement the existing 4-square house. The other structures, such as the bungalow and carriage houses, even though they'll be sold as individual fee simple units, are appropriately scaled and placed to appear as ADUs to the larger structures. Next slide. The next 3 slides just show the overall character of the site. Don't get hung up on architecture yet because we haven't detailed the architecture on these slides, but this does a good job of illustrating the spaces on the site. This is, of course, looking from Oglethorpe Avenue, or if you were a wren flying over this site. Next slide. Another site looking kind of southwest along Oglethorpe Avenue. And next slide. This is from Nottingham Avenue looking at the cottage court itself. Next slide. Yes, okay. So I'm going to have to rush through this before my time is up. I'd like to address some of the items contained in the staff report. We've spoken to the plan reviewers at Fire and Emergency Services and the Utility Department and alleviated the concerns expressed in their respective sections of the report. So there are no issues there. Regarding the concerns from planning about the blending of the structures into the existing neighborhood, the side of the quadruplex on the corner of Oglethorpe Avenue and Nottingham Drive haven't been designed totally, so we can certainly address that concern. The bungalow located behind the quadruplex, that's designated by letter B, actually fronts Nottingham, right? So that's not, we're not looking at the side of that structure. The reason it's located away from Nottingham a little bit is because we're trying to preserve an existing maple tree there. Let's see.
You're on borrowed time now, so.
I'm sorry, can I just, one more sentence?
You're on borrowed time now, wrap it up.
All right, the first 2 cottages in the cottage court that are adjacent to Nottingham Drive have wraparound porches. And even though the front faces the green on, for the cottage court, the wraparound porch gives a welcoming view from Nottingham into the green itself and acts like a front of the house itself. So I'll have to stop there.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Yes, and you will have a couple of minutes in response to any comments, but I think that your time is up. So
Yes.
We'll now move on to public comment. Is there anyone in the auditorium who would like to speak in favor of this plan?
I don't believe anyone's here to speak in favor.
Thank you. Is there anyone who would like to speak in opposition?
Yes. If whoever wants to start can come up.
I'm not speaking for the whole group, guys.
Yeah, just come on in and.
Okay, my name is Elaine Falls and I live at 306 Nottingham Drive. My biggest concern is this being a high density development. I see from the pictures that you show that there are a lot of cottages. Then there's supposed to be duplexes in the current house. Then over the carriage house, there are to be apartments. So I'm concerned about parking because from the presentation, there's limited parking spaces. I think he said 2 vehicles per occupant. So I'm really concerned about spillover into the Nottingham area on that street because people will have no other choice but to park on Nottingham Street. So those are my concerns, is it being so many cottages squeezed into such a small space. I would like to see it be limited and not so many. I think the development is a nice idea, but I just don't think that, I think that there's just too many occupancies in one small space. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Falls.
My name is Roy Ford. I'm at 250 Nottingham Drive. And my concern is about the amount of traffic right now on Oglethorpe Avenue from 4:30 to 6 o'clock going towards Oglethorpe School. The amount of traffic is unbearable. You can't hardly get in and out. And with this project, that's just gonna create more traffic. And that's one of my objectives against is the amount of traffic that's in that area. That will be a problem. It's not if it's gonna be a problem. It's a problem right now. This is gonna create more problem because there's gonna be more traffic. That's my concern.
Thank you, Mr. Foote. Anyone else?
Roy Ford, F-O-R-D.
Ford, sorry, thank you.
So it's like a car.
Hello, everybody. My name is Dennis Jewell. I stay in 1070 Oglethorpe Avenue. I'm speaking from behalf of to my neighbors that weren't able to attend, but we stay like very adjacent, like across from the street. And what we're concerned about is the loss of privacy, but we barely have any as it is. So that area is gonna like really constrict people that are there, that been there, as far as like going in and out, what they can and can't do. It's gonna limit them. Also, we're worrying about the tenants. I mean, how many people gonna be there? Are they gonna have room to move around? Somebody already mentioned about the parking spaces. That's a concern. And also the value on the property of our home we want to resell, but that decreases, the value in our homes as well. So that's some of the things that we sort of touch bases with. That's basically our main concern. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jewell. Hope I heard your name right.
It's Dennis.
Who else would like to speak?
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Mildred Lyle, L-Y-L-E. I live at 1000 Oglethorpe Avenue, and I've lived there since 1985. I've seen changes in the neighborhood for the most part. They've been good changes. This proposed preliminary development is concerning to me because for two reasons in particular, but there are some others, but primary reasons. Traffic. The traffic, I can't hardly get out of my driveway. By the time I think traffic is good in one direction coming from Oglethorpe down, then I start out, then it's coming up from the bypass, Loop 10, if you will. So oftentimes I'm stuck there in my driveway trying to get out. I don't think this is going to be good for our neighborhood. Oglethorpe Avenue is one of the main arteries or corridors into Athens from the outlying counties like Barra and Jefferson Way coming, well, Jefferson in particular. So that's traffic on the street all the time. Traffic. There you've got the hub of the medical center there. You've got education, the schools are there. It's just, I don't think it would be good for us. So I'm opposed to that. The other reason I'm thinking about is how is this going to affect our taxes? Not just my tax, but taxes for that neighborhood. So I just never imagined, didn't see this coming down the pipe, never imagined that 24 units could be put on that little piece of, that little area of land. It's a beautiful lot. I've always admired that stately home that is there. But 24 units, that's a lot. That really is a lot. And so I would like for the developers to look at this. I understand affordable housing. I can't say that I'm all that familiar with this missing middle housing, that concept, because I don't know really where it is in Athens. And so that I can kind of go and look, seeing is believing. So my vote is no. Maybe if they come back with something different, I could support it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Lyle. Who else? Great.
Good evening. My name is Stella Winfrey, and I live at 305 Nottingham Drive, and I've been there since 1999. And I'm opposed to this preliminary planned development as well. And like everybody else has said, our taxes, concerned about that because, any new development, your taxes are gonna go up, not just ours, like they said, everybody in the neighborhood. And the traffic, like they say, I mean, it's horrible. You can't get out, like the school is right there and you take chances, trying to pull in there and get out of there. I mean, it's already, traffic area. And, I just, I just don't see all those houses and cottages and all that stuff right in that little space. It's just, it's just a lot. And I oppose to this as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Winfrey. Anyone else to address the Planning Commission? Great.
My name is Dolores Lee and I live at 374 Nottingham Drive. And I hate to repeat everything else that everybody else has said, but first of all, the main thing is the traffic. The other thing, in looking at the plans, you've got some cottages or whatever, 900 square feet. Those just seem awful small. Rather than doing all those little small ones, why don't you put something there that's a little bit bigger that can be more family oriented? The community of Nottingham is a family oriented community. Our kids have grown up there, our grandkids. Everybody sort of knows everyone. But you're talking about putting people in 900 square feet. And here again, I am very concerned about what is it going to do to our property taxes. And notwithstanding the traffic. All of these are just so many concerns. And, you did the plan and I'm sure, you did what you thought you needed to do. But I think that there should have been more public or participants in our community to work with this. I mean, that's a concern because it is our community. None of you are going to have to be living there and dealing with all this stuff, but we will. So we want you to take that into consideration. And of course, I do oppose this concept.
Thank you, Ms. Lee.
Good afternoon. My name is Fred Smith. I live at 425 Rivermont Road, subdivision across the street. But we own a home, raise our kids in Nottingham, own a house at 360 Nottingham. And my question to you, would you want that type of development outside of your subdivision on 1.8 acres? To me, this seemed pretty radical. When I read and saw that plan, it just seemed really radical to me that many units would be placed on that space. And again, it's not, there's no way that you can do that and fit that into the character of that neighborhood. So again, I'm a big supportive of solutions for affordable housing. And there are places in Athens where 1.8 acres where this would fit, but this is not it. So hopefully a lot of changes can be made and something can be placed there that would be acceptable to the community and everyone concerned. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Is there anyone else in the auditorium? Okay, great.
Good afternoon. My name is Miles Anderson. I live at 368 Nottingham. Probably going to repeat a lot of the things that people have said here already. I do have some concerns about the property taxes. I've only been there, probably not as long as some people have here. I've only been there a couple of years, but I've already seen it go up, and that's with no new development. Definitely concerned about that. The parking, as some people have said, that is a very small area, that horseshoe. I don't know how the parking is going to work with 24 people there. Well, 24 plus whoever they bring in. Traffic's a big concern. It's already bad on the horseshoe there. When you go around, it's bad on Oglethorpe. So I don't want to see a lot of people coming through. I'm not really excited about that. We have a lot of kids there. We have a lot of pets there, people walking on that thing, and people already speed through there as it is. So I don't think that's going to help that situation. Privacy, as some people have said, more people coming back there, walking around. It's already busy as it is. And also just that's a nice green space when you come into the area. And I feel like Athens is just taking out all its green space lately. If you go on the outskirts of town, all the trees are gone. For development. It's bad to get rid of green space. It's shown that, cities go up 10 degrees, or cities are 10 degrees hotter than they are would be normally. And the temperature just rises the more green space that you get rid of. So that's another concern. So definitely opposed to any development there, period. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson.
Is there anyone else here to speak? I do not believe we have anyone else here to speak.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for all your comments. We will now take it behind the rail for discussion among the commission.
Were you gonna do the response, Madam Chair?
Oh, I'm so sorry. Yes, Mr. Polinsky and Mr. Smith, I'm sorry. You have 2 minutes to respond to the comments that you just heard.
Bob, do you want to go?
Yeah, I'll address a few of the comments because I do think that there is some misconception about what the project is. First of all, these are not apartments. These are all single family homes. And we designed the site as such. We can't solve all of the traffic problems, but the traffic generated by this development is minimal when compared to the other traffic that is already on Oglethorpe Avenue. And during the design of this development, we've made a concerted effort to reach out to the community by distributing leaflets. We had a neighborhood meeting back before the new year. And we also have an active website, 1010oglethorpe.com, where we invite engagement from the public. And so we'll continue to do that as we reach the master plan stage. And we all need to remember that up to 9 homes, large homes, can be built on this site, what we call by right, with no change of zoning at all. And when these large homes are incorporated on the site, that's where the green space disappears. And in this case, we've actually conserved a good bit of green space with the design. Joe, I'll stop there if you want to take over it all. Yeah, you're muted, Joe.
Sorry. I think the first thing I'm going to say from a developer standpoint, so to speak, is going to sound totally hokey, but our business partners and we've been in touch with. One of our big concerns is how this is going to affect a tax base of somebody on fixed income or otherwise. And we have been in touch with people on a national level and with local presence that will assist for free in helping people maintain low taxes. Thank you. And that's a side thing to discuss. But we've already discussed that as a group because it is a concern for us. The whole reason we're doing this is we do have concerns about affordable housing, and we don't want to do 9 houses there. As far as traffic goes, the studies that we've looked at said that we're going to have an impact of less than 1%. Somebody had mentioned that it's a family neighborhood. I think the definition of family right now could be one single woman who lives by herself and moves here to be close to the kids and the grandkids, and she maybe is on a pension, and that is a family of 1, if you ask me. And I think it's unfair
We're 2 minutes.
Okay, that's it too?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
There's a trend for housing
Thank you,
being
Mr.
small.
Polinsky.
Thank you.
Okay, we will now come behind the rail for discussion. Would anybody like to get us started?
Here we go. Alice?
Lucy, yeah.
Thank you. A lot of this I anticipated, and Mr. Ford said it very well at the very beginning when he talked about the Oglethorpe traffic. there is a long straight run down past Oglethorpe Elementary School. Whenever you have a long run with no stoplights, no stop signs, nothing to slow traffic, it becomes a speedway. Oglethorpe from Tallahassee, essentially, where it gets on the bypass, all the way up past the medical facility on the left, is basically just a racetrack. One of the things that I kind of was surprised at when I looked at the report is that Transportation and Public Works, I think this is a minor collector. Is that correct, Brad? Isn't it a minor collector?
It's a collector, certainly, yes.
Okay, all right. I thought minor, but I don't think it's a major. But anyway, the way it is constructed today is it is always way faster than what the actual speed limit is. And one of the things I would like for the developer, excuse me, the designer or developer to do is in the master plan to include a map that includes Oglethorpe Avenue east and west of this property, so that we can see where those intersections are. There is an intersection, I believe, with a driveway between Nottingham Drive and Nottingham Drive, because that's a semicircular drive. The driveway into this development, I believe, intersects with Forest Heights Drive. The first intersection in Oglethorpe, there are two intersections for Forest Heights Drive. Okay, am I correct, Brad?
Yes.
Okay. It looks to me like it intersects there. And is it, and like I said, I was surprised Transportation and Public Works did not address that because of the speed of Oglethorpe, even during off hours, they really need to have a stoplight or something that makes things slow down there at that intersection. It's a natural intersection. You have a stoplight there, I think, and that may be something that would help address this whole property. I look at Oglethorpe as being one of those, and this is especially true from Hawthorne going west, that it looks like it's one of those areas that is going to be redeveloped, not necessarily in the next 5 years, but maybe in the next 10 years. And this is an area that is natural for redevelopment, and it's going to continue to be redeveloped along that corridor. And I'm a big person on corridor studies. Anybody who knows me knows that I've been talking corridor studies for 30 years, and we need to do corridor studies. And Oglethorpe is probably one, especially with Oglethorpe Avenue School and Forest Heights. That's sort of a natural. Let's see what else. Oh, I would like for the developer to contact everyone who spoke tonight specifically, to talk to them, not just, put flyers out. Talk to them about what their concerns are and to how to alleviate those concerns. I think that's very important. Having Optimus Design, Dan Perelik, to come in and deal with this. He is the top person in the country on missing middle. Missing middle can do a tremendous amount of positive good in neighborhoods like Nottingham, which is an up and coming neighborhood. And so I don't know that you're going to stop taxes going up. I mean, that just happens because it's gotten to the point now where there is no way for people to have affordable housing where it doesn't exist today. And this is one of those up and coming areas where you're going to see affordable housing become an area where it's going to be more dense because that's the only way people can afford it. Let's see if there's anything else. One thing that I think is very important here is Oglethorpe Elementary School and I think it's Resource Medical next door. Those are both areas for employment. They're very close to this particular area. And it's not that dense, to be honest. I mean, not in the big picture. This is a place where people who work in those two areas, which are within walking distance, could own a piece of property, own a home. And I think we need to look at that as being, you know, where do you put affordable housing? You put affordable housing close to where people work, because transportation is a huge expense. It won't necessarily be people that own cars. It may be people who never owned a car. But I would like for the developer, I've already said this, to talk to every single person one-on-one who spoke tonight. I think that's incredibly important. I'm going to shut up now, okay? Thank you.
Thanks, Lucy. Who else would like to weigh in? Jim? You're muted, Jim.
Yes, I wanted to comment that I grew up in a neighborhood that was as dense as this. I grew up in a house of 670 some square feet. And that's a little bit small for a family with 2 kids, but I found it to be a wonderful neighborhood, and people were very neighborly. And I think that we need more of this. In Athens, we've pretty much excluded smaller houses for a long time, and that has necessarily accelerated the trend away from affordability. So I am sympathetic with the concerns of the neighbors, but I think that in some respects they may be more concerned than they need to be. But I do agree that the concerns about traffic are particularly important, and some of Lucy's suggestions will be well worth looking into.
Thanks, Jim. Krista?
So my main question, when we were looking at the renderings that Bob was showing us, there were some sort of street views looking down, and I guess, you know, the property is up a little bit off the street, and so I guess that's my one question. Maybe the next time around, and I feel like when we were looking at those renderings, everything looked very flat. And I get the feeling that y'all aren't looking to just kind of come in and tear everything down and strip everything flat and build on top of that. But I just, maybe the next time we see this, if we see something that shows a little bit more of the topography and how the different things work into that. I was also curious too about along, oh gosh, I mean, if you're looking at the rendering, the driveway along the right where there's parking, kind of what is that, like an 8-foot privacy fence that goes along there? Is that the typical thing that gets put up there? Because I was concerned about cars pulling in and headlights like poking into people's backyards and houses. So I just wanted to make sure there was like a good buffer there. I really like the point about the 2 houses, the 2 cottages in the back that face Nottingham, how you wrap the porches around. I thought that was a neat trick. To kind of make it look like it's facing. Was there plans for an HOA for this? How is that going to work?
There you go.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's my last question. So whoever needs to answer that.
Yeah, there
Yes,
will be
please,
an
Mr.
HOA.
Piliski.
There'll be covenants and there'll be an HOA, and the HOA will cover, you know, everything from trash to pest control to common area maintenance, common area taxes, the maintenance of the clubhouse, that kind of thing.
Who else would like to provide comments? Monique?
Hi, I do understand the concern with regards to traffic in that area. I'm just thinking that that needs to be clarified with the current residents on how that is to be handled, as well as the tax proposal that, you know, they can get some support in that area. I think understanding how the impacts will be minimal will be helpful. I do like the layout. I am a little shocked at how many units can be put on that space. But I do like also that you're keeping some of the social space and the green space. So I think it's imperative that we just educate the existing tenants in that space.
Anyone else? Oh, Katie.
I had a few questions, possibly for staff, but I did want to echo that the concern from the neighbors and Kristen about privacy. Both the parking area is pretty close to the existing residential lots, and the rear setback being so short. Just I'd like to know what kind of buffer there will be there. And yeah, I like the modifications to address Nottingham a little better. Yeah, I agree something needs to be done about traffic no matter what, regardless of the impact of this development, which I don't think will make a big difference. I would like to understand better, what causes people's taxes and property values to raise. I'm sorry I'm ignorant about that, but I wonder what tools we have in Athens to protect homeowners. I mean, I assume this development will become a comparable development by which the tax assessments are made. So I'd like to ask staff about that, and also about if parking spillover has been an issue with comparable developments. Not that we have missing middle developments yet, but this is always a concern that comes up, and I wonder if it tends to be a serious concern when new developments come into existing neighborhoods, and also if permit parking would be a response if it is.
Katie, did you want any responses from staff right now on any of those questions?
That would be great if we have time.
Yeah, I will do my best. As it relates to opportunities and options for tax relief for existing homeowners, I am certainly not the expert on that. I mean, we would be happy to reach out to our assessor's office and maybe try to provide you with some follow-up information in the master report on how that all works in terms of assessments and increases, but I don't know that I'm prepared to answer that this evening. You asked a question about, have we seen issues with spillover parking with similar developments? I mean, to my knowledge, we have approved 2 cottage courts so far. Neither one of them was completely undone on Dublin Street and turned into conventional, and the other one is still an approved plan, but I don't believe there's ever been any follow-up activity on it. So unless there is an existing older one out there that I'm not thinking of off the top of my head, I don't know that I can answer that. Just because we don't have a good example for you.
All right, I guess any development that adds density and possibly includes a parking waiver, because I think that is the I like the idea if there's no parking, then you just the people only to have one or no cars, and that will be actually good for traffic. But if there is spillover, I'd just like to address that.
Yeah, and I guess that, it's potentially, it's possible that if they had a problem with it, you could make application and try to get in under the neighborhood parking program. I don't know, again, that one's out of our traffic engineering and transportation and public works department. So I know there are restrictions on tags, but that you would set up a situation under that scenario that the problem would then the owners of the houses within the Nottingham neighborhood would also be subject to those same parking restrictions. But I think that's possibly a reality.
Yes, Jim. Jim, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Let me let Joe. Jim, I'm sorry. Let me let Joey speak first because he hasn't spoken
Okay.
yet, and then I'll come back to you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm just going to say I do like this proposal. I like it from the ones that I've seen in the past. I was at a housing forum last week, and a big talk was the 900 square foot is the 1 bedroom. That is the hot market right now. That is the biggest need for a lot of cities around the country. And so I think this is a great addition. It could be a great addition to Athens. The traffic is a concern, but to me, I don't see, I believe it was pointed out, I don't see this is really going to add that much more traffic to Oglethorpe. I just think Oglethorpe traffic is a concern overall. So I'm not really seeing how much more this is going to do to that. So, you know, I mean, I don't really have anything to give back to the developer to change or any criticism to it. You know, I would like to see if they can do a little more study to the traffic. I don't think, you know, with the parking they've added and the walkable availability to certain things around, you know, that could be part of a good project here. As you know, was mentioned earlier with Kristen, maybe the topography from the way it's going to look from the road, because I know it's kind of goes up a little bit, and you've got those two C buildings sitting right up front. So how are they going to kind of sit up and overlook Oglethorpe, or if that's going to be kind of leveled out, and or how that's going to work throughout the whole project? But other than that, I like the way this feels for Athens. I think it's something that we're going to be seeing a lot more of in Athens. I don't have a problem with the way these sit with the waivers being asked for, because I think that I've seen a lot of developments around Atlanta at the forum I was in last week, and they work very well. And I think this would fit in nicely here. Thank you.
Anyone else? Oh, yeah, right. Of course, Jim.
I just wanted to add one element which has a bit of speculativeness to it, but there are basically two issues that drive up property taxes. One is the value of the land, and the other is the value of the dwellings on the land. And one argument that could be made in favor of this proposal is helping to alleviate some of the property tax concern is that because the units are smaller, their assessment is going to be significantly smaller and will not contribute to the driving up of the tax rate as much would be the 9 houses that can be built by right of a much larger size right now. So I think this could actually put a little bit of a break on rising property tax values. At least I hope so.
Lucy, then Joey.
I think Taylor has not had a chance.
Oh, I'm sorry, Taylor. I didn't see your hand. There you are.
Yeah, just I'm kind of like everyone else. I do think it's a good idea. It addresses affordable housing, and it's something that we've been talking about. It's what everybody talks about. I do think that I don't think the traffic is going to change very much as well, but I do think that you can help leverage the traffic. I think you would have some input right now to help maybe get some lights in there or whatnot while you're in this process. I also think that you've heard your neighbors. I think out of respect to the neighbors, that's their area. Listen to them, work with them. You heard their concerns. Just have that conversation with them so they can get some understanding as to what may happen, and see what they would want, and ask them what they would like to see. But that's all I have. But I do think that.
Lucy.
Okay, I'll make this very short. One is, I think that something can go along with the comp plan update that we're going to talk about later, that we get somebody from the tax assessor's office to talk about tax assessments and how new development is factored into it, because I know they deal with comps, and that a lot of people don't understand comps, especially when new development comes in. And I think the Planning Commission needs to be very aware of how the tax assessor's office reassesses properties. I think it makes a big difference when you're talking about affordable housing. The other thing is, and this is a reiteration of something I said earlier, Oglethorpe Avenue is a speed trap. It's just a speedway. And I think instead of requiring the developer to go and ask Transportation and Public Works again for an assessment, I think planning staff needs to go to Transportation and Public Works and ask them about it. And if there has been a traffic study done of Oglethorpe Avenue in recent past, because every time I'm out there, it is a speedway. And this is not necessarily going to add more traffic and anything, but there is already a traffic problem out there, and this needs to be addressed. And that's why I suggested that they look at a stoplight from one entrance to this property, which is directly across the street from Forest Heights Drive on the, let's see, the eastern end of Forest Heights Drive. Thank you.
Anyone else like to comment? I do have a couple of comments myself. I'm just gonna, I've starred some things, taking notes from this conversation. There we go. So the first thing I was thinking about when I read the staff report, we rarely see this number of variances in any plan development request, and staff is recommending, like, I think 3 more. So we're pushing 20 on this one. And I don't fault the developers for that at all. I'm just going to get on my soapbox for a minute and say we do have a hard time in our zoning code even conceptualizing this kind of development that combines single family with some, sort of light multifamily. So I look forward to us addressing those issues down the road. But normally when I see that number of variance requests, it's a red flag. It makes me say, this totally doesn't fit in the area, but that is not the case here because I think, our zoning code. So I just wanted to say that first, but I wanted to highlight one thing that I feel like all the neighbors who commented tonight addressed, and maybe I didn't hear it quite so much from Planning Commission comments, but the staff comments, the staff concerns about integrating better with the neighborhood. This is a different land use from the Nottingham neighborhood, the city neighborhood, the Horseshoe, pretty traditional inside the loop, close in suburban kind of neighborhood. So this is different. And one of the commenters asked, would you like this to be in your backyard? So me personally, I would be good with this being in my backyard if they're a piece of property this size, and I don't live very far from this development at all in my backyard. But I guess I would, especially along the backside of the development, where you're backing up to backyards. I guess I would just like to see some more attention to that interaction. Just really echoing the staff comments. I do like the way you put the wraparound porches in, so that if I'm walking or biking down Nottingham Drive, if I'm driving up, if I'm walking out to Oglethorpe, I don't feel like I'm just looking at the side, a big long side of a house. I also like the way that the multifamily is pretty much all pushed to the front on Oglethorpe Avenue and using the existing building. I think that's going to read very well from Oglethorpe. So I like that. I guess I'm just going to echo, I believe I heard this from Lucy first, and then from Monique, and then from Taylor. I really encourage you to talk specifically with these neighbors who've come out tonight, because there's a significant number of them who have a lot of investment in this area. They've lived there a long time, and their concerns really do fall into a certain number of buckets. There's traffic, there's privacy, there's density, there's taxes. So if I would just really love to see, before the full plan comes back to us, some interaction with that. These are obviously our neighbors who are invested in the area. And just to highlight one more thing, and then I'll stop. Monique brought up, just being able to, I think Mr. Poloneczki was the one that said, there are organizations that can help us to work with concerns about rising taxes. We know this is an issue that is associated with gentrification. This development is not the same as gentrification, I don't think, because of the small units and the affordable components, but it's adjacent. It's gentrification adjacent. So I think that would be helpful if that could be an issue that's specifically addressed with people who've invested in this neighborhood for so long and would have genuine concerns about taxes going up precipitously over the next few years. They're going up anyway. I mean, we all know that. We've all gotten our tax bills, but not faster than necessary. I think that's all I have to say. Anyone else want to comment before we let the developers go back with our input? Joey, did I see your hand? No. Okay. Okay, great. So thank you very much. And we'll look forward to seeing this back on the table. And thank you to everyone in the auditorium who participated. It's been really helpful.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, so I think I have to hand my gavel back over now.
Thank you so much. Okay, we'll move on to our next item. This is 110 Voyles Road, PD 2022-01-243, and we'll start with a staff report.
Okay, 110 Voyles Road. This also is a preliminary plan development. It's from EI to EIPD. And this is the location map at 110 Voyles. You can see it's near the intersection of Olympic Drive. Also there, you can see the one existing building, an aerial shot here with the parking, which is already in the front yard. The part around the lake there is not part of this plan development. It is part of the subject property, but you'll see there's a boundary for the plan development designation. So the request is to expand the existing industrial development and construct a corporate office building. And we have two requested waivers of code standards, increasing the maximum building height from 65 to 100 feet. And that's for part of the proposed building. And then we have increased the maximum front yard parking from 25% to 100%. The future development or future land use designation of employment center would remain the same. The zoning would just add the plan development designation. And so we have the site plan here, and I think, yeah, this is the actual plan development portion. And just to get a better view though, there will be a rail spur coming in to the back. There's a railroad line to the west, and they are proposing a rail spur into the property. This existing building here would have an addition onto the front, corporate office building out front. I'll go back to the blow up here. And then some extra parking. This is existing parking on this side. They would add parking in front of the office building. And then we have, it'd be two phases addition. Phase one in our darker color, and then phase two out here in front. So overall, we are going to exceed 1 million square foot of industrial space. Right now, it's about 400,000. That does trigger a development of regional impact. Here's the architecture to the office building here in the front. And then over here on the west side is where we'd have that 100-foot addition. And just going back for a second, you can see that's an area now that it's just undeveloped on this side. It's also industrial EI zoning. Some light industrial zoning, and nothing's there at this time. There are a few scattered homes on the other side of the property, but there'll be no development past this area. Okay, so the comments, we do have to have a development of regional impact review by the regional Commission of Northeast Georgia prior to the master plan consideration. So we're working with the applicant now to get that information forwarded on to the Regional Commission, and they'll do about a 30-day review. So we should have their comments back in plenty of time for the master plan consideration by the Planning Commission. And then we've also asked the site plan park calculations be revised to make sure they include all the building area. And then there's some comments of public utilities as well in the staff report to be addressed by the applicant on their master plan. So that concludes the staff report.
Thank you. Okay, now we'll go with the report from the applicant.
Thank you. Good evening.
Great.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Great, thank you. My name is Scott Haynes. I'm a landscape architect for WNA Engineering, 355 Anita Street, here tonight, representing RWDC Industries. With a request to go from EI to EIPD, which will support an expansion of RWDC's existing production plant. Just a little bit about RWDC. They are a manufacturer of biodegradable polymers for conversion into various consumer products and single-use plastic articles such as straws, bottles, and paper coatings. These products have the performance and utility of petroleum-based plastics without the negative environmental and health impacts associated with non-biodegradable petroleum-based plastic materials. Like I said, this request is being made in order to accommodate an expansion of the existing facility. By expanding the existing light industrial building, the construction of a new production facility, as well as adding an additional area for office space. The planned development district designation being sought is only 58.9 acres of the larger 132-acre parcel. That boundary is shown on the PD plan, as you saw in the exhibit earlier that Rick showed. We are currently seeking 2 waivers from the EI district standards, first being exception from the 65-foot maximum building height, and the second is from the required location of off-street parking. Now, we do anticipate the addition of a third parking waiver or third waiver for a reduction to the amount of required parking. And I'll talk a little more about that in a second. First, the height waiver. We are asking that a portion of the proposed building be allowed to be 100 feet maximum height. This height exception is necessary for the equipment needs that are involved in the manufacturing process. This is only for a portion of the proposed addition, and that portion has been depicted as you saw on the architectural sections. Although the 100-foot max height is allowed in the industrial zoning district, we are pursuing this waiver through the EIPD designation to maintain compliance with the future development map, in addition to maintaining consistency of the existing light industrial uses along the corridor and generally homogeneous EI that exists there today. Regarding the parking waiver, location waiver, because we are proposing to utilize and expand the existing building, parking for employees will be located between Voyles Road and the new building facade. Reasons are we are planning to, of course, utilize the existing surface parking, and we're also trying to partition employee and visitor parking from the transportation and process traffic that occurs further into the site. We understand that the intent of the regulation is to improve the interaction between public and private space by making parking lots less prominent. In this case, we feel like the industrial nature of the corridor, the established pattern of uses, as well as the need to safely accommodate a variety of transportation modes, justifies front yard parking as really the most logical and safe option here. As mentioned, we will likely be coming back to you in the master plan phase with an additional waiver requesting to reduce the amount of required parking. The actual parking needs for this facility are about a third of what is required by code. We obviously do not want to construct and maintain a necessary impervious area. We will be reconfirming these needs with RWDC and the design team to ensure that we plan for sufficient parking. In summary, we feel the site is ideal for the proposed expansion. This request represents a substantial opportunity to build on the pattern of light industrial along this corridor, while also growing our manufacturing job base. And I'd say it's a significant note that those jobs will be part of the green economy. As always, I want to thank you all for tonight and for staff for guidance in developing this application. I have Ryan Edelson, who is representing RWDC, and the rest of the development team on the call as well tonight. Either of us will be happy to answer any of your questions at the appropriate time. Thanks.
Thank you. Sorry, I thought we were waiting for Dr. Adelson to speak, but that's just for later, is what you're saying, right? Okay. Do we have anyone in the auditorium to speak to the application?
No, we do not, Madam Chair.
Okay, great. Thank you. And we will come back to the Planning Commission discussion now. Is anyone willing to start? Jim.
I think it sounds like a great proposal and I'm all for it.
Thank you. Lucy.
I am always happy to see where someone, and I think Scott did a very good job on explaining this, where we don't look at what our current parking requirements are as much as we look at what is really necessary. There is a lot done nationally and has been for decades about parking requirements. They go back to the Green Book, and maybe that's something else the comp plan people can look at is requirements for parking. That goes back to the 60s, and the Green Book was all about someone decided, or traffic engineers decided, this is how many spaces you need for a given development based on use. And a lot of it based on traffic engineers that I know now, who are actually practicing, they say that was all kind of pulled out of the air. And I think we need to start looking at that, because parking is mostly impervious pavement. Impervious pavement means runoff and environmental issues. And we really need, I'm not just talking about Athens-Clarke County, I'm talking about everybody. We really need to start looking at what is actually needed in the way of parking requirements. So I'm really glad to see that they're looking at this large piece of property, mind you, and saying they really would like to see a reduction in that requirement.
Thank you, Lucy. Anyone else? Alice, and then Katie.
Actually, let Katie go first, because I wanted to follow up on Lucy and also make a motion. So I want to hear what Katie has to say first.
Great. Go ahead, Katie.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing as Lucy in terms of parking requirements not tending to have a really rational basis nationwide. So I will always support a reduction in parking requirements in every service. I must say, I visited the site and it seemed like a no-brainer on paper. I have no problem with the height waiver. That road right now, it's actually quite scenic and green, and there's only one other property front parking. You actually don't see the existing front parking because of the elevation in front of this on the site as it is. So even despite the tree planting plan, which looks great, I think this amount of front parking would be, yeah, I think it would be detrimental. So I really hope that the waiver is proposed. On the other hand, I also understand that this corridor that's pretty green right now is zoned for something else. So I'm not sure where I'm going with this, but I'm very happy to see this kind of business, especially using the rail connection. And I would just say if we can decrease the parking and its visual impact as much as possible. And I'm not sure if anyone arrives by means other than cars, but if the final plan can accommodate those people as much as possible, that would also be a plus. Thanks.
Thanks, Katie. Alice?
Yeah, I just realized I threatened a motion, but no, we're just proceeding with comments. I just to echo basically what Lucy and Katie said, so I won't repeat. But I would look forward to seeing this with a request for a reduced parking waiver.
Great. Anyone else? Okay, I think we're good. Thank you very much for coming to present your application to us, and we'll see you next time around. Great.
Very good. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, I think that's it for our main items, so we'll go into our other business. The only thing I have to report on is the establishment of the steering committee made up of 5 planning commissioners to oversee the 5-year comprehensive plan update. So their work will begin on the 17th of March in order to hit the June 2023 deadline. And that committee will consist of myself, Joey Tucker, Kristen Morales, Monique Sanders, and Taylor Pass. So I think that's it on that for now, but I'm sure that we will be reporting out to the rest of the commission as we get going with that work. And that's it for my report. Brad?
Okay, just a couple things quickly. As a follow-up to what was just said, the 17th of March will actually be the public hearing kickoff meeting. Certainly the steering committee members will be there, but that is a public, they're all public meetings, but it is encouraged to bring in more than just a steering committee. The actual first official meeting of the steering committee will occur on the 31st of March, but we will send out more information on that and make sure we have tried to get word out in the paper to get as many people on board as we can. So a little bit on that. One zoning item considered by the mayor and commission Tuesday night, it was the development of the single family house on Sorensen Drive over in Snapfinger that was held for a month, and it was approved Tuesday night as you sent it forward, with the only condition being that the stormwater pond remain on its own parcel, but that they not be held to the binding architecture elevations as shown. And that was per y'all's recommendation and was supported by the mayor and commission. The other item of interest, the inclusionary zoning text amendments that should have been voted on Tuesday night. We had an issue with changes again with our legal organ, and they did not get printed and run within the legal parameters. So that item has to be held until an April vote. Everything's still smooth and on course, and perhaps it gives the elected body a little bit longer to digest all the hard work that was sent forward, but that is scheduled for a vote at their regular meeting in April. And that concludes my report.
Great, thank you. All right, I think that's it. Is there anyone else who had anything they needed to announce? I don't. Okay, great. So I will encourage or accept a motion to adjourn. Lucy?
So move.
Okay. And a second? Joey? Great, thank you. All in favor of adjourning, please raise your hand. Okay, and opposed? All right, thanks everyone. Have a great night and thanks for your time.
Thank you all for being here.
All right, see you next
Bye,
time.
everybody.
Bye.